Welcome to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome into Soccer Morning here. As we go about the business of talking about soccer, hopefully we get back to some of the games today. Yesterday was FIFA, and more FIFA. Today we have to do a little FIFA because there's been some developments since everything kind of came tumbling out yesterday in Zurich. But there are also games to discuss. We had a Europa League final. We had MLS matches. We had U.S. Open Cup. And go on with your bad self, United Soccer League. So we have that to talk about. We're going to open the phone lines later in the show. Speaking of the Open Cup, Jeff Crandall will join us in a couple of minutes to kind of go over what happened in the third round, talk about that USL dominance of NASL sides. USL went 7-0 against NASL sides last night. Two NASL sides are still alive. I believe that's the Cosmos and the Silverbacks. But everybody else defeated by USL teams. Maybe that changes the complexion of the tournament. I mean, of course it does, but I mean, for you personally, are you interested in a tournament that's going to pit a lot of USL teams with some MLS influence against MLS teams in the fourth round? Maybe that's not a thing you're interested in. We do have one amateur side still alive. We'll talk to Jeff about all of that. Let's go ahead and hit those headlines. I'm going to go with the games, then we will get to the FIFA stuff. Sevilla, back-to-back Europa League champions, defeated Dnipro 3-2 in Warsaw. Watched some of that game. It was brilliant. It was wide open. It was fun to watch. Had some great goals. Ultimately, Sevilla ends up getting a gift from Dnipro that allows for the difference in the title. In the match. But good on Sevilla for winning yet another Europa League. And I believe that's 5 trophies in the last decade or something like that for Sevilla. That's pretty impressive for a club that you don't think of as one of the heavy hitters in Spain. Certainly they're a step below what Barcelona and Real Madrid do. Step below maybe Atletico Madrid, and here they are. And now they get into the Champions League. This gets them a berth in next year's Champions League. So good on you, Sevilla. In MLS action last night, 3 1-0 wins for 3 home sides. Seattle beats the Rapids 1-0 on a great goal by Marco Papa, who did it with his right foot. Did you know that Marco Papa had a right foot? I don't think I even knew. I thought he was just a one-legged man. He uses that left foot so much. That is his dominant foot. To see him cut back and curl a right-footed shot to the back post was pretty impressive. Galaxy 1-0 over RSL. They get that on a penalty. The difference there, Hamas Nalave handling the ball in the box. Just unfortunate. I mean, I guess you have to call that penalty. Janino put it in the net, but that's harsh on Hamas Nalave, who really had nothing. He didn't know what was happening there, and that ball ends up going off his hand after he's on the ground, sliding to attempt to break up a Galaxy attack. And Portland beat DC United 1-0. Taylor Kemp with a terrible giveaway that allowed Portland to score. Will Johnson returned to the field for the Timbers, so that's a boost to them. Their captain back on the field after recovering from his long injury layoff. Perhaps that's the boost that the Timbers need. And that was it's a tough week for DC United. They were up in New England, scrape a 1-1 draw with the Revolution to fly back to play Portland. I can't remember what's next on their schedule. I looked it up the other day, but it's probably nothing fun. They're hosting Philadelphia. So they go from coast to coast to coast, which seems like some bad scheduling, but hey, this is MLS. You deal with what you deal with. I mentioned that U.S. Open Cup third round. I mentioned the USL dominating NASL teams. Let me just go through a couple of those scores. You had the Seattle Sounders 2 beating Portland Timbers 2. So the baby teams of those two rivals. Rochester taking out Harrisburg City Islanders. That's USL on USL action there. Here's your NASL USL matchups. Richmond beat the Jacksonville Armada 3-0. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds beat the Tampa Bay Rowdies 1-0. The Charlotte Independence beat Carolina Railhawks 1-0. The Charleston Battery beat the Fort Lauderdale Strikers 3-2. Louisville City FC beat Indy 11 2-0 after extra time. St. Louis FC beat Minnesota United on penalties, 3-1 on penalties. Those are some terrible penalties, Minnesota United. What's happening there? The Austin Aztecs beat the San Antonio Scorpions 2-0. Am I missing any? That's it. That's your list of the NASL teams who went down to USL teams. So quite the interesting third round. Again, Jeff Crandall in just a couple of minutes to go over all of those results, talk about what this might mean as we move into the round, which delivers MLS teams into the mix. We've got our matchups. We'll look over those matchups ahead of June 16th games. So we've got a couple of weeks to prepare. June 16th and 17th will be that fourth round. And now back to FIFA. Meanwhile, Sepp Blatter has held crisis meetings with the heads of various confederations this morning as the FIFA deals with the fallout of the 7 arrests that took place in Zurich as a result of the FBI investigation into corruption. 20 years of corruption as outlined by Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Visa has threatened, quote unquote, to pull out as a FIFA sponsor over this. Now, I don't believe that they will until they do. I just can't believe that any sponsor is actually going to pull out of FIFA and the marketing cloud it allows them being partnered with the organization until they are forced to, until there is such a clamor that the negative publicity pushes them out. And I don't think it's there for Visa or Coca-Cola or Budweiser or anybody else. One of the more interesting developments, Russia has lashed out at the United States over this operation. Vladimir Putin himself has said that this was another blatant attempt by the United States to extend its jurisdiction to other states. Now, obviously, you know that the mechanism by which the FBI and the DOJ investigated FIFA was one that allowed for surveillance of individuals suspected of committing a crime within U.S. jurisdiction while they were outside of U.S. jurisdiction. Go back and read the Chuck Blazer story and how he became an informant, and you'll see part of that was wearing a wire during meetings at the 2012 Olympics in London. Clearly, that's outside of the U.S. jurisdiction, but they did that stuff because they have whatever powers are granted to the Department of Justice on that front. But obviously, Russia seems like a little bit of sour grapes. They back Sepp Blatter. Clearly, they back FIFA based on the World Cup coming to Russia in 2018. Just a reminder that Sepp Blatter retains plenty of support in order to be reelected tomorrow. We'll wait for those results. Whether or not that sticks for a very long time and Blatter serves the full four-year term remains to be seen. But he does have the backing of the African Federation, the Asian Confederation, and even if there are some dissenters among those groups, he's got plenty of votes. UEFA has stated that they will back Prince Ali, so we'll see how that goes. NASL has suspended board chairman Aaron Davidson of Traffic Sports and cut ties with Traffic Sports per a release. It's going to be a little more difficult unraveling themselves from Traffic than that, but we'll see how that goes. The English FA has called for Sepp Blatter to step down. Greg Dyke, obviously. England has no love for Sepp Blatter. And Michel Platini has said he has asked Blatter face-to-face to resign, to which Blatter responded, "I can't quit now. The Congress is starting." So, blah. And in some better news, FIFA 16 by EA Sports will include 12 women's national teams. That is about time that happened. Let's take a break. When we come back, Jeff Crandall will join us to talk U.S. Open Cup. Third round, fourth round. Be right back.
Face in the crowd, you're talking too loud.
If you're like me and you're wondering where to watch all of the Copa America games this June and July, I've got the answer for you. It's called Fubo TV. Fubo TV is a legal and affordable streaming service that delivers live and on-demand HD broadcasts of BN Sports, Goal TV, Benfica TV, and more. That means you can watch Copa America, Barca TV, Real Madrid TV, Serie A, and other great leagues from around the world. With Fubo TV, the broadcast stream to your computer, smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Amazon Fire TV. Plus, Fubo TV works with Chromecast, so you can cast the games to your TV set. Soccer Morning listeners, I want to invite you to sign up today for a free trial to Fubo TV. And if you love what you see, a monthly subscription to Fubo TV is only $6.99 per month. So sign up at fubo.tv/soccermorning right now, fubo.tv/soccermorning, and start enjoying the best soccer from around the world at home and at work.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
There we go, back on Soccer Morning. Taking a break from soccer apocalypse, FIFA shenanigans to talk actual soccer. The 2015 U.S. Open Cup tournament has completed the third round. We're looking ahead to the fourth round with Jeff Crandall. You can find him on Twitter at Jefe Crandall, Jefe Crandall. And the Twitter account, which you just told me is already out of my head. Jeff, I apologize.
No problem. It's at Open Cup.
There you go. At Open Cup. Make sure you're following that handle for all of your Open Cup updates. Jeff, that was a pretty crazy third round.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, as our soccer world blew up yesterday, maybe it was a little nice to, by the time we got to the evening, get to something that feels a little bit nicer and watch some Open Cup matches. And certainly it was an interesting night, not necessarily for the amateur teams. Only one amateur team is left in the tournament after PFA Elite beat Ventura County Fusion. But USL, I would be shocked if the folks down in Tampa weren't celebrating a little bit last night with some champagne and cigars, going 6-0-1 against NASL second division teams. So that's the big storyline coming out of last night. A little surprising to see such a clean sweep, but
Right.
USL did very well for themselves yesterday.
Now, clearly for NASL fans and for those individual teams and for the league itself, first of all, yesterday was a bad day for them beyond soccer. I mean, beyond action on the field, beyond competitive elements. It was bad because of what happened with the FIFA stuff and how they got tied into it. But for them, they have long since the league was created, sort of targeted this tournament as an opportunity to prove themselves against MLS teams, et cetera, et cetera. And Jeff, I'm one of those people who says this is probably more of an outlier than anything else. I mean, it just happened to go this way. I'm not saying it's a flip of the coin, but it is clearly not something you would expect to happen very often. And I don't think it necessarily says anything about the quality of all of those NASL teams.
I agree with you. I mean, I was watching, it's hard to watch 8 games when they're all going on at once, but I was watching 3 or 4 of them at the same time last night. NASL teams had leads in those games too. Fort Lauderdale was up on Charleston for a long while, and Charleston kind of hit them back with 2 quick goals toward the end. Minnesota was up on St. Louis. I think there's probably one other one, but NASL teams and USL teams, or, even before NASL, Division III was beating Division II. Even PDL teams were beating Division II. So, that's the magic of this tournament. That's why we like it. Still a little surprised to see such a sweep, but, it's also important to, make sure people know that 2 NASL teams are still in it. New York Cosmos did their job very well last night against Jersey Express in Atlanta. Squeaked by Chattanooga in extra time. So 2 NASL teams left, 12 USL teams left, 17 MLS teams joining the fold, and we still have the 1 amateur team from USASA. But Jason, last stat I'll give you, since NASL began competing in the competition, in 2012, USL now holds an 8-3-1 advantage over the second division. So a lot of those games came last night, but interesting stat nonetheless as we move forward into next year when these games will take place again.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with NASL fans minimizing this as a fluke, and I'm totally fine with USL fans trumpeting this as a major success for them. Let's you mentioned the last amateur side, that's PSA Elite. One of the other amateur sides left, Chula Vista, fell pretty hard to Sacramento. 7-3 was the final score in that match in Sacramento. So, with this one amateur side, this is immediately everybody Cinderella. We should all be pulling for PSA Elite, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's good for the tournament, right? But of course, I really like the amateur storyline. The reason it's a little unfair to the other amateur teams in a way. It's just the way the tournament works. But you had 5 amateur teams left last night across the PBL and PFL and USAFA, and PSA Elite got to play another amateur team in Ventura County.
Yeah.
So one of them had to advance. They also, because they're the last standing amateur club in the tournament, win the $15,000 cash prize for the second year in a row. They went to the 4th round last year as well. So they've been here before. I don't know how many of their players were on the team last year, but I think there's a decent carryover. Unfortunately for them, they have to go up against the LA Galaxy at home next month. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how Bruce Arena handles this game. He doesn't have to fly cross country to Carolina like he has in the past. And he's got an opponent that he'll probably feel pretty good about facing at home. But the magic of this tournament is the upsets, and we've seen MLS teams take amateur sides lightly. So it's the perfect David versus Goliath storyline going into the 4th round. We just have to see how Bruce treats it and move on from there.
I do like that we have an amateur side left, and as you said, they've been here before. But I like that we have an amateur side left that does have a name that sounds like it sounds like a youth soccer club. I mean, these are adults playing soccer, Jeff, but PSA Elite, that sounds like every other club in this country. So they definitely fit in the American thing there. Again, let's just, before I move on to the 4th round and look at some of these matchups, as you mentioned, PSA Elite moving on to face the Galaxy, which is a rough go, and with the MLS teams entering, just give me some thoughts on amateur sides in this tournament in general. I know Chula Vista was running a campaign to raise some money. I know U.S. Soccer reimburses for travel costs for clubs who can't afford maybe to get where they need to go. We have the regionalization in order to help cut down on those costs, and we have Siggy Schmid saying, hey, maybe make it random to add some flavor to this. Where do you fall on all of that stuff?
I've been on the amateur side when I worked for the Michigan Bucks, I guess like 7 or 8 years ago. And I kind of see both ways, especially what Siggy is saying. Just to do a completely random draw, I understand down the road, especially up in Cascadia where there's probably less lower division teams to make a regional thing work as well as it does out on the East Coast and here in the Midwest. But the cost for amateur teams can be very great if they advance as far as a team like Chula Vista or PFA Elite have to travel multiple times out of their sort of area. Chula Vista had to go to Arizona twice in 2 weeks and then go up to Sacramento last night. So that, they're U23 club that's there to help develop players. And I think they're a not-for-profit club too. So U.S. Soccer does reimburse on travel expenses, but the expenses add up. And I just don't know. While Siggy's idea and thoughts are certainly well received, I don't think it's crazy at all. I just think that it's probably not the time yet for amateur teams to begin having to travel across, a Chula Vista to New York or whatever, if that were to happen. Now that said, I do remember 2 years ago Siggy not being happy about having to travel to Tampa Bay. So
can't have it both ways.
That is interesting. But as someone that he's won the Open Cup a number of times. You know, his thoughts on the tournament are certainly welcome. And I think, you know, that's why the Open Cup committee meets every year and discusses things of this nature to try and improve the tournament as years go on. So is it going to happen next year? I doubt it. Could it happen down the road? It's an interesting thought and one worth discussing, but right now the financials probably don't make sense.
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. Lots of people who love this tournament or love the idea of this tournament want to improve it. Siggy happens to have a platform for doing that, and he said some things. I'm with you, Jeff. I think right now it's difficult, and when Siggy compares this tournament to the FA Cup, which people love to do, what's missing in the context of that is, you know, if amateur side from Manchester has to go to London, they take a train down, they play the game, they take the train back. We're talking about, you know, flying out 20 guys, putting them up in hotels, flying them back. I mean, that money racks up very quickly.
It does. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's not one of those things. It's not like promotion relegation where you're like, oh, just shelf it and never think about it because it's never going to happen. It's something to think about, and if you can find ways to tweak the tournament so there's a little bit more randomness outside of just this regional aspect, then it's totally worth it. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. But yeah, I mean, the U.S. is how many times bigger is the U.S. than England, and that's your answer.
It's just crazy. And you can't change the tournament so that only teams who can afford to travel are involved, because then you're killing the Open Cup element of it. I certainly want to be able to have these amateur sides and have a Cinderella run like this. Hopefully PSA Elite can do something against the Galaxy if you are rooting for Cinderella. And so let's look ahead to the fourth round, because again, MLS teams are now in the tournament, and that's when a lot of eyeballs start to come to the Open Cup. Jeff, where's the matchups that are most? I mean, they're all intriguing in their own ways, but where are the matchups for you that are like, okay, that one I'm really interested to see what happens there?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously now this isn't like the straight up MLS matchup, and why Siggy's probably talking about changing up the tournament is Timber Sounders, and the sole reason that happened is because of the regional aspect. Two MLS teams had to face each other in this round, and they both had their USL teams in it still, so they couldn't be paired up against the USL teams. This one made the most sense geographically for that MLS matchup in the fourth round. So obviously eyeballs will be there. The other games I'm looking forward to: NYCFC versus the Cosmos, New York City FC's first Open Cup game against the Cosmos that did pretty good work last night, and the Cosmos are hosting that New York derby, if we're calling it that. Sorry if I offended anyone for that. PSA Elite Galaxy, of course, will have the eyeballs. And another one I'm really looking forward to, now having watched Sacramento 2 weeks in a row, is this game at San Jose. Sacramento is a very good offensive team. They have the leading scorer in the tournament, and Tommy Stewart. He has 4 goals in 2 matches. I'm interested to see what kind of lineup San Jose puts out for this game, because if they don't put out a good number of starters, it could go the wrong way for them. And now that said, Sacramento defensively hasn't been that good either. They've given up 5 goals in 2 games, and Parkey wasn't pleased about it last night. So, this one could be a goal fest. It could be interesting. I think it'll be tight either way. And then from a local angle, I was really hoping, since I, had worked for the Fire and Indy 11 recently, that dream matchup could have happened, but Indy fell in extra time last night to Louisville. So, I'm looking forward to that one from a personal level. I'll be going to my first Open Cup game in person when the Fire hosts Louisville on June 16th. So I think those are 5 that I'm intrigued by, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you got some good stuff here. I mean, I'm looking at Colorado Springs and the Rapids. That should be fun. You have Seattle Sounders 2 against Real Salt Lake, so you kind of have, the reserve team of a team with a rivalry with an MLS team is involved there.
Yep.
You see DC United and the Riverhounds. That's interesting, considering what the Riverhounds did to Tampa. And there was another one that I'm missing here. But anyway, so because the NASL teams, so many of those NASL teams are now out of the tournament, we missed out on a couple of those things. One, the Peter Wilt game, which what you just identified could have been Indy 11 in Chicago, and we're missing out on the Thomas Rangen derby between DC United and Tampa Bay. But these matchups are intriguing in their own right, and then the NoCal, the battle for NoCal or NorCal as you mentioned there. There's a lot of new teams in this tournament this year, Jeff, and I don't just mean like amateur sides that are making it for the first time. I mean new pro sides. There's obviously the partnership with USL has caused that league, MLS partnership with USL has caused that league to explode. How do you think that's impacted the tournament overall? And does it make it more interesting, less interesting? Some people wonder about whether or not this is going to just take on the aspects with all those NASL team or USL teams winning as sort of just MLS playing against MLS, for lack of a better description.
That's a fair point in a way, but a lot of these teams are. I think there's only one team playing against a USL affiliate, and that's San Jose Sacramento. But I think the biggest change that has occurred with all these USL teams coming in this year is I think the difference between the third division and what we would see from teams in the PDL and PSL, USASA, is a little bit greater now because there's more jobs in professional soccer for players, and those guys that were playing in those fourth division sides, making a run in the Open Cup, are finding their way onto rosters in USL and even in NASL at some point. So, you're maybe having less PSA elite type teams making it to even a third round. I think we probably would have seen more if USL. We would have seen more this year if USL hadn't expanded so greatly. So it takes away that aspect a little bit. That said, it also provides maybe for the potential for more upsets of MLS teams. I think there are a number of USL sides that are going into this fourth round that are capable of pulling an upset over an MLS team. One that I left out that I was really impressed by last night as well was the Richmond Kickers, who just completely handled Jacksonville, and they'll host Columbus. I think they're hosting their third game in a row. The potential there. We love the story of an amateur team upsetting an MLS team. It's happened very few times over the course of the tournament. We remember those teams really well because it happened. But the big upsets, or the more common upsets in this tournament, are when Division III and Division II take down an MLS side. I think there's a lot of potential for that next month. So has it changed a little bit? USL has this affiliation with MLS. The conspiracy theorists can say what they want, but I think more USL teams is maybe giving an opportunity for more MLS teams to be knocked off.
Yeah, certainly there is that element to it now. The fourth round happens June 16th, June 17th, so about 3 weeks away from that, or a little bit more, a little less than 3 weeks away from that, I suppose. There is a question on Twitter here from Henry, and I'm just kind of tracking the news. I hadn't seen this. I guess Carolina was able to recall Brian Silvestri from his loan with the Union so he could play in the Open Cup. Was that something, I don't know. The implication here is why was he allowed to play while still on loan? But I guess maybe they canceled the loan. How does this stuff work? The Railhawks need bodies, I suppose.
Yeah, it would be down, as far as I know, it would be down to whatever deal Philadelphia worked out with Carolina in terms of that loan. And I would imagine, since they were able to recall him, that if they were in a hardship needing him back, that was written into the loan agreement. So Brian Silvestri, with Carolina going out, is now still cap-tied to Carolina, cannot appear for the Philadelphia Union if his loan were to continue to June 16th when they play the Rochester Rhinos. Sort of an interesting one. We saw it on a bigger scale last month when Christian Nick transferred to Montreal from Indy 11 for that Champions League final. But that was a very interesting piece of news when we saw him return, and unfortunately for Carolina, their run ended last night to Charlotte, so his Open Cup is done.
Jeff, this particular tournament, as we all root for the U.S. Open Cup to grow in relevance, in importance. This tournament to this point, I mean, we're not to the MLS portion of the tournament yet, and clearly MLS teams are the biggest draws in terms of interest in eyeballs. Some of them take it more seriously than others, but so far, I mean, I don't know. Can you give me an analysis or an opinion on how this has gone? How much video was available to fans? How many people have actually been taking part in the U.S. Open Cup actively, both social media wise with the Open Cup account, and then whatever else is available to them in terms of this tournament, and again growing it.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm trying to remember the exact number from the first 3 rounds in terms of streams, but I think we had 11 last night, 11 out of 15, which is a pretty good percentage. We had 10 out of 21 for the first round, and I think we had about 9 out of 21 for the second round. So that's 31 out of, my math's going to be off here, but that's about 30 streams in the first 3 rounds. U.S. Soccer has done a great job to promote the tournament this year, as has the Cup.us continuing to do their job. And so I think it's added socially when you have more games on, whether it's on TV or on video stream. More people are going to be talking about it as they're watching the game. So the numbers are very good in terms of social numbers, in terms of viewership. I think I saw 3,000 people watching in the middle of the day for Sounders 2 versus Portland 2 yesterday. That was all good. The other important aspect for me, as I've come on and helped U.S. Soccer's coverage, and they've really been receptive to, is trying to make the draw a bigger deal. So last week for the 4th round draw, I think it was the first time in the tournament's history where we actually had a sort of live element unveiling the pairings. Generally, it's just a press release in the afternoon. In this case, teams didn't even have a heads up going into the draw who they would be played against, or who they'd be pitted against. We worked out a deal with 120 Sports to show, the pairings unveiled and a little bit of the draw. The draw still doesn't lend itself well to TV. But that was a really big moment for the tournament, I thought. I think a huge part of knockout competitions is just that anticipation of who am I going to play next, and am I hosting or am I not? And that got a lot of people talking to. So that was a big step for the tournament. Things are looking up, and I think there's more to come as we get into the 4th round with MLS teams entering.
Well, I know you've signed on, to cover this tournament, to support this tournament this year. But is there any notion of a longer view to, and it doesn't have. I'm not talking about big things. I mean, people always say, let's put this on television. People need to see it, and I say, well, you have to have a television partner willing to do that. It has to be a give and take. What other elements, what other things can U.S. Soccer do? Can the community do? Can MLS teams do, who certainly have more resources to bolster the tournament's profile?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. It's an easy answer to just say get more games on TV. I would say I think that's a desire. But I think what I'm seeing from it is it's about longer term growth and about taking some smaller steps before you take the big ones. So, I can't speak to the big plans of where the tournament's going. I can say that U.S. Soccer is putting a lot of effort and time into making this a bigger thing, and I'm really impressed with it. Now, working sort of hand in hand with them on it, and we'll see where it goes. But I think this year has been a good step in the tournament. I'm hoping it's a good first step, and bigger ones are to come. But unfortunately, I can't speak to I can't speak to bigger plans because I'm not the one making them. I'm just kind of helping out. So for me, I want to see every game on TV, whether that's ESPN, the Ocho, or whatever. But I think it's headed in the right direction, and socially, I feel good about the numbers. The video streams have been very good, and hopefully we'll take the next step soon.
All right, here's my pitch, Jeff, and I want you to take this to the people at Soccer House, and you tell them that I came up with this idea. I just want credit. I don't want money. U.S. Soccer channel, run by U.S. Soccer, on my cable system. Can we do that?
That's a great idea.
Oh yeah.
Do you have financial backers?
Let me check. No, nobody's signing up right now. That's one of those things. I'm kidding, of course, but hopefully we do have some people that want to invest in soccer, and we'll put some money up to help grow the U.S. Open Cup. But you know what? For the time being, it's a great tournament, and you can see it on your interwebs most of the time. We are moving into the fourth round where the MLS teams jump in, and I'm sure we'll have Jeff Crandall back on the show to talk about that. He is Hefe Crandall on Twitter. It is Open Cup on Twitter. You should be following both of those. Jeff, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jason. Have a good one.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines. We'll talk to you, whether it's about Open Cup, MLS last night, FIFA Apocalypse, what else? UEFA, Europa, blah, blah, blah. Be right back. If you're like me and you're wondering where to watch all of the Copa America games this June and July, I've got the answer for you. It's called Fubo TV. Fubo TV is a legal and affordable streaming service that delivers live and on-demand HD broadcasts of BN Sports, Goal TV, Benfica TV, and more. That means you can watch Copa America, Barca TV, Real Madrid TV, Serie A, and other great leagues from around the world. With Fubo TV, the broadcast stream to your computer, smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Amazon Fire TV. Plus, Fubo TV works with Chromecast, so you can cast the games to your TV set. Soccer Morning listeners, I want to invite you to sign up today for a free trial to Fubo TV. And if you love what you see, a monthly subscription to Fubo TV is only $6.99 per month. So sign up at fubo.tv/soccermorning right now, fubo.tv/soccermorning, and start enjoying the best soccer from around the world at home and at work.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
Here we go, Soccer Morning. Phone lines open. 646-832-3909. Maybe you haven't gotten the FIFA stuff out of your system. As I said, there's a couple of things that have happened in the last 24 hours that I've mentioned that are worth mentioning. Visa threatening to pull out. Now, we've got a decent point here on Twitter. I'm not sure I agree completely with this point. But essentially this says Visa's a bank, or they obviously are a financial institution of some kind. And for them to be connected to wire fraud and the like. This is from Expect Delay on Twitter. Visa is different from other sponsors. It is a U.S. bank. Being linked to money laundering in the U.S. would be very bad for them. This is true. This is true. But I think they are unlikely to move until there's some sort of notion that they're involved. I don't think that's the thing. Visa hasn't been connected directly. Now, if their systems are being used, okay, maybe that's a reason for them to back out, but they're going to have to be pushed. That's all I'm saying. They're going to have to be pushed. Coca-Cola's going to have to be pushed. Budweiser's going to have to be pushed. Who am I missing? Gazprom. Nobody thinks they're going anywhere. Nobody thinks that they're going to just willingly step aside. This gives those FIFA partners access to an insane worldwide audience every 4 years. They can't get that anywhere else. It's why it's unlikely that they're going to just willingly step aside, because they're doing the right thing. Think about corporate America, or corporations in general, multinationals, and some of the things we heard and some of the things that happen and what those CEOs make, and consider whether or not they're likely to just say, hey, corruption is bad, we're going to step aside. No, clearly they're not doing that. The Russia thing. Man, Vladimir, just stop. Come on, just stop. No, who are you kidding with this whole U.S. has overstepped their bounds? Please. Please, you sent troops to Ukraine. You essentially are occupying portions of another country. And you want to sit there and throw bombs at the United States because they went after corruption? Please. That's insane. I mean, we know Vladimir Putin's insane. But, come on. What do I expect, right? What do I expect from Vladimir Putin? Nothing. And now my Twitter timeline is blowing up with comments from Michel Platini, who's saying things like, UEFA's going to back Prince Ali bin Al Hussein. Great. UEFA's going to have a meeting if Blatter wins. Great. UEFA might even consider pulling out of FIFA if Blatter wins. Great. That's great. Fantastic. Here's the thing. Michel Platini, not that much better than Sepp Blatter when you get down to it. This is a guy who backed the Qatari World Cup bid, in part because money was flowing into France at the time from the Qataris. His kid works for the Qataris. Nicolas Sarkozy, president of France at the time of the World Cup bidding, had dinner with Mr. Platini and said, hey, guess what? Yeah, they're investing in France. They're bringing us a lot of money. Can you back that bid and vote for them and maybe pull some other votes for it? That's where Michel Platini falls, just on that one issue. Just on the World Cup voting. Who knows what else is going on? And I don't have all the information. Zach and Dub V, what's up?
Hey, man, what's up?
It's awfully noisy where you are. Where are you?
It's noisy where I'm at?
Yes. What's on your mind, Zach? Go ahead.
All right, man. Well, I just want to talk about the Sepp Blatter situation.
Okay.
And, fuck her right in the pussy.
What just happened? All right, we just had an idiot call from West Virginia. West Virginia, this is why you have a bad reputation. Right? This is why West Virginia has that guy. It was a good one, Zach. Try just a little harder. Maybe try just a little harder. 646-832-3909. Is World War III going to start because the United States went after FIFA corruption and Vladimir Putin is saying that the United States overstepped? No, of course not. But the rhetoric is hilarious. From an American perspective, sitting here, one of the most troubling elements of this is, of course, the NASL connections through Aaron Davidson. And you could argue Aaron Davidson acting on his own individual, but hey, Traffic as a company is pulled directly into this. They may not be long for this world as a concern. And I'm not saying that the NASL is going to collapse because of that. More than likely not. The NASL will be fine. Because they have some well-run clubs. They have some new investment. Probably going to be okay. But it's still, again, troubling to have NASL connected to this. There is the issue of the Railhawks, owned and run by Traffic Sports. There is the issue of NASL interests, investment coming from traffic. I don't know how else to say this. I'm not my understanding of all these things is fairly limited, but A and B stock shares and something traffic is still there as part of NASL. So that's certainly worth watching. We can talk about the better news, the good news. That the FIFA 16 game from EA Sports 2016 will include 12 women's national teams. So you can play as the United States, Canada, I imagine, Japan, Germany, Brazil. Quite a list of excellent players. Now, my understanding is you can't play men versus women. So you're going to have to play a self-contained Women's World Cup with 12 teams, I guess. A mini Women's World Cup now. But this is a long time coming. This should have happened a long time ago. There really was no reason for it not to. Unless it's just you imagine the game is too big. Well, you probably drop, I don't know, what, the Albanian First Division? Would anybody miss that? I'm not saying there is one in the game. I'm using that as an example. But you could drop a lesser league that nobody plays at the very least. There's plenty of room here. Should have happened. So I'm going to go read some of that after we're done here. Also, after we're done here, I'm going to go on Huffington Post Live at what time, Trevor? 10:40. Something like that. So partake in that as we talk about FIFA some more over there. 646-832-3909. You guys burned up on FIFA yesterday, and now you got nothing. How many of you went out to U.S. Open Cup matches or watched U.S. Open Cup matches yesterday? Love to hear from you. We do have the MLS stuff. Certainly review that a little bit. Again, 3-1-0 score lines. Portland beating DC United. Seattle beating Colorado. And what am I missing? I'm missing one. Let me pull that up in front of me. LA Galaxy beating RSL 1-0. There you go. 646-832-3909. Jump in on a Thursday. I think we've all burned ourselves out on yesterday's stuff. I think FIFA has made us tired. How many of you have thought to yourself that soccer is less fun because of all this stuff happening? That's what I wonder is, does FIFA push people away from the game? I did a quick radio thing yesterday, phone call, and I sort of outlined how we love this game in spite of FIFA. We sort of have to compartmentalize everything, all the bad stuff. But the problem is that all of it trickles down. So when you have corruption at the top, at FIFA, it's not that much of a logical leap to go, well, wait a second, what about our referees? Are they corrupt? We know match fixing is a problem. That's outside of FIFA's. Not only do we have the people running the game being corrupt and threatening the integrity, we have people on the outside trying to influence the game. That's where we are right now with soccer. And I think it's extremely easy to just be depressed about the state of things and to feel as though the game is crap. So it was so much better 30 years ago. Bill in New York, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, Jason? I want to completely change the subject and get back to some games that are being played this weekend.
Sure, go for it.
And I know we always make fun of Scotland football, but there's 2 big games coming up. Tonight and Sunday, Rangers are trying to get back into the first division.
Okay.
And if they win this home and away, they're back in the first division.
Wait.
We'll have an old firm match again next year.
Back to the Scottish Premier League or whatever it's called now.
Yep.
Wow.
It
feels like yesterday, Bill. That Rangers was dissolved and had to be reconstituted and was playing in what, the 4th division?
Yes.
Feels like yesterday.
And they kept moving up every year, and now they're in the 2nd division. And their promotion relegation, it's a little crazy the way they do it. It's great. I like the way they do it. But they had to win. They came in third place. They had to beat the fourth place team. Then they had to beat the second place team. And now they're playing the 11th place team in the first division. If they beat them, they're back up in the first division.
Wow. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
best of luck for Rangers fans. That's obviously good. And look, Scottish football's better when Rangers are there. It just, with everything that happened to that club and all of the malfeasance and everything that, to have them fall apart that way just makes you wary about the future of Scottish football in general.
Oh, it's a mess,
Yeah.
And I'm a Celtics fan. I'm not a Rangers fan. And it's against everything I believe in to root for them, but I know the league is much better if they
Right.
keep it up there.
And come on, you miss those old firm matches. You know you do.
They are the best games.
Yep. All right, Bill.
No doubt about that.
Appreciate the phone call. So there's our Scottish football update from our friend Bill in New York. I guess we needed that. I guess we did. I'm not sure that Rangers is like a feel good thing. Even new Rangers, whatever the actual name of the company is. Eddie in Brooklyn, what's going on?
Hey, man. Good looks to Bill on that. I actually didn't know about that. I might give that a little bit of a look.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, you don't have to track Scottish games with your job.
I mean, not really. I don't think anybody should in general, but that one I might actually pay attention to.
All right. What's on your mind, Eddie?
All right. So let me preface my rant, and that has been a little bit of a while since I called anybody out, but I'm going to call somebody out now. So let me preface this by saying that you guys did this to yourself, and by you guys, I mean City fans.
Okay.
Like very obnoxious City fans who, before the season started, only wanted to talk about how they were going to be transcendent, how they were going to change MLS, the ratings, the style of football. Jason Christ, they just would not shut up. and now that they only have one win in how many games, they kind of need to start shutting up.
All right.
What they're starting to do now is use the expansion excuse, which is a bit hypocritical because you can't tell me that you're going to be the transcendent expansion franchise for months on end and be annoying on Twitter and not know a damn thing about what you're talking about. And now when it's not going well, try to say like, well, we're an expansion franchise. What did you expect? No, you don't get to play that excuse. So
right.
Every City fan that's doing that, you need to eat it. Straight up, you need to eat this because this is what you asked for. This is what you're getting.
All right. I imagine some of them probably weren't on the "we're going to be transcendent" train, or now saying we're an expansion team. But I guess paint with some broad brushes, Eddie. It's cool.
No, it's not. It's really not broad. It's very, very pointed. Like this is what they were for months on end. I mean, I got into fights with several debates with people about what their reality was going to be because, it's not easy in MLS. And, you look at the Red Bulls, they're not an expansion franchise, but the Red Bulls lost a coach, lost 2 DPs. They went through their own little, transition, and look at them. They're actually playing attractive football and actually doing well in the standing. So the expansion excuse for City, that also doesn't make sense because it's not like the Red Bulls had enough time. They have a core, but, there's still a lot of players that they got to gel, a new system they got to take on. Mm-hmm. So they got their own transition to worry through, and they're still going through it. City fans didn't see this coming because they don't know anything about MLS. Sure. They don't know how hard it is in MLS to compete on a week-in and week-out basis. Okay. But all they wanted to do was talk. And now they want to use the expansion excuse, and I'm not putting up with that. Like, that needs to stop. Eat it.
All right, I think that's where you end. That's where you end this, Eddie. Eat with it and eat it. All right, thanks, Eddie. Appreciate the call, man. You got anything else?
Yeah, I would have called to do this a little bit of, I think on Tuesday, but it really is hard to get up when you've been, enjoying your night for long hours and then having to get up at 9 to do this. Not that easy, man. I just want to let you know that.
All right, cool. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Eddie in Brooklyn there. Let's go to Patrick in Colorado, and then I've got something on this announcement of the women's national teams making an appearance in FIFA 16. What's up, Patrick?
How are you, Jason?
I'm good.
I was watching that DC Portland game, and I think DC was basically playing a B squad. It was a pretty thin squad, and the only reason DC was in that game is because Bill Hamid had an awesome night. And I just wanted to mention that, and I think that game should have been 4-0 Portland, but he kept them in it, and I'd like to see more minutes from him. Did he get a start? Did he get a start for the national team in Ireland? I can't remember now.
Sounds right. That sounds right. I think wasn't there a camp recently where Guzan was not in it, even though he could have been a trip to Europe. I think Hamid played in that one. I don't recall, but he is one for the future. I mean, he's going to be the U.S. number one, and it may be sooner rather than later, Patrick.
Well, I hope to see some more minutes. He reminded me a little bit watching the outmanned DC squad play Portland's A team. Reminded me a little bit of watching our guys play Belgium in the quarterfinal or in the round of 16.
It was that bad, huh? Oh my God!
Well, yeah, he reminded me a little of Tim Howard, the way he was saying.
Did I lose you, Patrick?
See him more on the national team. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate the call, Patrick. Dropping out just a little bit. I'm gonna let him go. We've got some more coming in at 646-832-3909. And let me just say this, okay? So Trevor's on Twitter right now making some comments to throwing up some GIFs, and it's related to the announcement that FIFA 16, EA Sports will include in FIFA 16 women's national teams, 12 of them. I've seen some images, some of the U.S. national team stars doing the whole motion capture thing, doing that stuff up in Vancouver so that they can be put into the game. And apparently this announcement, and I always think that these always think that these people are a small segment of greater society. And I sure as hell hope that's the case. But if you're out there in the world right now in some form of social media bitching about women being included in FIFA, shut up. Shut up. Stop. You sexist asshole. Stop. I don't ever curse on this show, but seriously, stop. There's legitimately no reason that women shouldn't be in the game. If that offends your delicate sensibilities, keep it to yourself. Don't dump it out there into the world. Don't be toxic with your crap. Take your insecurities and your chauvinistic idiocy somewhere else. It's not even like it hurts you. Even if you think, oh, women can't play soccer, which is a completely nonsensical attitude, even if that's your attitude, this doesn't hurt you at all. It is just players being included in a game. You know what you do? You pull up the menu and you avoid that part if you want to be that jackass. That's what you do. Good Lord. Let's talk to Landon in Salt Lake City. What's up?
Hey, Jason. Hey, I was calling to ask you, well, one, first I was asking about FIFA, but I just want to make a comment real fast on what you said about the about women players.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, I think back when I was younger growing up, I didn't know much about soccer. But I remember when the women won the World Cup, that was my very first experience with soccer at all.
Yeah, I think that's true. Landon, I think that's true of a lot of people. I think a lot of people sort of woke up to soccer in 1999. And then, you kind of build from there. So go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, just want to totally agree with you on that. But a question for you. So we all know, obviously, we've talked about the FIFA's been corrupt for decades and decades. What do you think is the reason that they decided to pull the trigger now? Do you think there's anything specific with Russia and Qatar coming up? And why didn't they wait another 5 years? What do you think the reason for that is?
I don't know. A lot of people want to throw out the conspiracy theory about the timing that this happened 2 days before Blatter was going to be reelected, that it was meant to have some sort of impact in that way, that it was that there was something to, and I've seen it like thrown out both ways. One way is, this is meant to damage Blatter, but the other way you could view this is, well, it actually gets rid of some elements that will pull down Blatter or that might even go up against him. So blah blah blah. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask them. They said it's years in the making. I just saw some article that said they only sort of stumbled on FIFA corruption after they were investigating Russian mafia ties or something. So I have to go back and read that to get the full context of that element. But I imagine that, Chuck Blazer and his cooperation and maybe certain elements of what he provided all came together. That's the only thing I can think of.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I know I've only been watching soccer for the last few years, but I know public opinion recently has been raised. So I know John Oliver did his big spiel on FIFA corruption, and a lot of people I know who don't follow soccer at all saw that and asked me about that, asked if that was true. So.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people do that same thing, and I wonder. I mean, it frustrates me as a soccer fan, that this is a thing that I have to deal with, not only in my own fandom, and sort of reconciling what FIFA is with how much I love the World Cup, et cetera, but also the fact that I now have to explain this to people because this is such big news, even in mainstream American news sources. Now I have to explain to people, first of all, what is FIFA and how is it connected to this thing and that thing and CONCACAF and U.S. soccer, and then to explain why, how this impacts the sport and why are these people corrupt, and it's so frustrating.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I'm a big soccer guy at my work, and no one really asks about soccer at all. And now that the corruption's in the news, I'm getting questions all the time. And I'm like, I wish if I was introducing guys to soccer, it's something else that's not corruption FIFA. I really wish it was something else. But the other thing that I kind of talked about is you kind of asked, does FIFA ruin the sport for me? I'm mostly an MLS fan, so FIFA honestly isn't humongous to me. I don't hear about it a ton in terms of MLS. I'm kind of getting to Europe a bit. I'm learning more in the EPL, and it seems to be, FIFA has a much longer reaching impact in the day-to-day in the EPL, so I get to see if you're a huge European fan, it'd be huge. But to be honest, for MLS, it hasn't affected us a ton. It's kind of annoying things like we depend on FIFA for a lot of the international matches. But, I mean, as corrupt as FIFA is, I'm still pretty happy on the day-to-day stuff with MLS, so it doesn't affect my enjoyment much, but it's still great to see this all go down.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's the right attitude, but and I don't want to be, I don't want to ruin that. I'm sure you know this already, and we all sort of understand intellectually how these things are connected. But there is, there's some intertwining here. There's FIFA and CONCACAF all sort of intertwined with U.S. soccer.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, and that's
I mean, anything to make CONCACAF better makes me happy as an MLS fan, honestly.
Right. There you go. I appreciate the call, Landon. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, Jason.
Yep. 646-832-3909. Here for a couple more minutes if you got anything. I think our friend from West Virginia wants to call back. I think he's calling back. Is that what was it, Zach? I wonder if he gave his real name. That would be hilarious. Give your real name and then call in and say that crap. You're an idiot. Yeah. Fun times. 646-832-3909. This show has, for the most part, avoided some of. I mean, I remember, maybe like a year and a half ago, like right when we were starting, maybe we got a couple. I remember the Best Soccer Show used to get some prank calls, but even those were like soccer prank calls for the most part. I don't think we ever got any really idiotic ones that didn't even fit the context of the show. I totally want to talk to the guy. I'm not going to, though. 646-832-3909, which means that we have what I'm saying is we have an amazing audience. You guys are great. You guys are doing an excellent job, a bang-up job. If you want to get in with MLS thoughts as well, some people taking issue with whether or not that was Portland's A team last night that played DC United. Clearly they're working some things in. I mean, Will Johnson returns to the field. You don't have Diego Valeri starting. You have Maxi Urruti up top. I'm not even sure who's first choice striker in Portland right now. Is it Urruti? Is it Adi? Who is it? You have Asprilla on the field, Nagby. So, no, who am I missing here? Let me look at the bench very quickly, because obviously that's Alvis Powell. That's right. Not Alvis Powell. He's in the lineup. I'm talking about Rodney Wallace, who wasn't in the lineup. So that certainly would be a normal first choice player. Paparazzo and Ridgewell at the backs, and Nat Borchers is on the bench. Yeah, so that's definitely not quite an A team for Portland that went up against DC United. People are blocking their numbers and calling the show. This is so good. Trevor's getting his money's worth. Trevor's earning his money. That's what I meant to say. 646-832-3909. Keep trying, buddy. Go ahead. Keep trying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tries. 6. Your life is sad. It's Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning. What the hell are you doing? You could be playing FIFA right now, as a matter of fact. And as of next year, you can play FIFA with women's national team players, which is a good thing. Looking back at this FIFA stuff, again, the big question for me, and I think that not everybody is concerned with the administrative elements. I'm not sure that anybody, that some people bother themselves with what FIFA is or what they do and how they impact the game. But the problem is that they are pervasive. They are connected to every international tournament that happens in some way. But certainly the World Cup, which is the biggest of the bunch. Certainly every youth tournament the United States plays in, let's call it a World Cup. FIFA is there. And I just wonder. Let's go to Andrew, who wants to talk about NYCFC. What's up?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for the call.
Couple thoughts. I've kind of been throwing around the idea just with friends and different people about New York City FC actually going, I don't know if it's crazy to spend DP money on a center back. I know they're looking at Yewo, it looks like.
Are they? I hadn't heard that one. I know I know Gucci's out of contract. I mean, that may be a stopgap, but you certainly need a center back.
Yeah, he was on their Twitter account that he was training with them, actually. I think he was at State University training with him, so I know probably not till the June transfer window or July transfer window opens, right? They would be able to get him in.
Yeah, I think that would have to be the case. I can't remember. There's a certain leeway for players who are out of contract, but I don't think they can add him now. I think they have to wait.
Right. Yeah, so anyway, so I'm training, thought that was interesting because they definitely need some help there. I know there's talk of guys like Pirlo or something like that coming over. What are your thoughts about getting like a DP midfielder in as opposed to like a center back or something? I know it's not as flashy as playing.
Well, I mean, right now, all of the rumors swirling around NYCFC when it comes to DPs involve attacking players or not attacking players. Certainly, I don't know. You call Andrea Pirlo an attacking player if you want. I mean, he's part of the attack, but that's Pirlo and obviously Drogba. And while I think that, and some help for David Villa would be great, you certainly do need to shore up the back line. I'm not a fan of spending DP money on a defender, mostly because that usually means spending it on somebody with a name reputation based on past performance, usually an older guy. I think that there's some value. There's got to be a center back out there you can grab for $200K that won't break the bank, but is still an upgrade. I mean, I love Chris Wingert, but playing him at center back's not going to cut it.
Yeah, it's not helpful at all.
So I mean, I'm not on board with the center back DP thing generally, but maybe if you're desperate enough and you're NYCFC and you have a slot and the money, sure, why not?
Sure. Great, man. Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate the call. There you go. There goes Andrew. Good stuff from him. I think that's about it. We're going to wrap this one up. Thank you very much for checking out Soccer Morning here on a Thursday. Thank you to our guest, Jeff Crandall, talking about the U.S. Open Cup. Interesting third-round results. Big fourth round coming up next month. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. It's Jefe, J-E-F-E, Crandall, C-R-A-N-D-A-L-L. And then follow Open Cup on Twitter as well. Make sure you go checking out our friend Josh Hakala and his effort over at thecup.us. Brand new look. Looks fantastic. And their U.S. Open Cup on Twitter. Just follow them both. Just make it easy. Follow them both. Make sure you go get a Soccer Morning mug. I'm going to send one to Zach in West Virginia. I'm sending one of these to him. Get a t-shirt at 30fc.com, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Big Friday show. See you then. Bye.